good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in the world. As Ron said, we are here to talk about how to lower your AWS bill. So first off, let's do some quick introductions to us as presenters. My name is Jonathan LaCour. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Mission. We'll talk a little bit more about Mission in a moment, but I'm joined here by Jason.
Hi everyone, Jason Gay. I am a senior cloud analyst at Mission. I work on our cost optimization team, helping our customers keep their costs under control.
Perfect. So we have the experts in the house here this morning. So let's talk a little bit about who Mission is. We are a premier consulting partner with AWS, which means that we have achieved the highest tier of partner status with Amazon. And that comes through a lot of hard work and customer success, right? And so we are vetted, validated, and verified by AWS. And we have a variety of skill sets, capabilities. And each of these is also vetted by AWS. So in terms of competencies, we are highly skilled in migration, DevOps, Microsoft workloads, SaaS workloads, and healthcare and life sciences. In addition, we provide managed services and solutions for AWS. We also are able to deliver well-architected reviews, which helps you understand if you're aligning to best practices in AWS, and a lot more. In terms of other things that we do, we like to really think that we help you regardless of where you are in your cloud journey. So if you're not yet in AWS, we can help get you there, right? We can do a migration readiness assessments, proof of concepts, and then we can migrate you to Amazon. We have done many migrations over the years. And once you're there, we can help you manage, right? Make sure that you get the support you need, monitoring, AI and machine learning based security services, and continuous DevOps consultation. Finally, what we're going to talk about today is those optimization services, right? Cost optimization, attribution, application performance, and discounts. So with that, let's dive into cost optimization. So what we're actually going to do first is we're going to look at a typical spend pattern for organizations who adopt AWS. So let's take a look at one. This is actually a real spend pattern from a real customer that we have scrubbed the name of so that you can get an idea of this is their spend before they came to Mission. And so, as you know, lots and lots of benefits to the cloud, right? It's fully self-service, consumption-based platform, unprecedented power. And for a lot of businesses, as you start diving in and deploying workloads to gain all that agility, you don't really have any sort of governance or cost containment strategy, and that can lead to unchecked growth. So without that kind of programmatic strategic cost management encompassing all of people, process, and tools, what you'll see is what we call the continuous climb. And from a cost reporting standpoint, users are going to continue to deploy new resources, fail to right size or shut them down, or take effective of the correct types of resources. And what typically happens is what you see here. Organizations figure out, oh, we're spending way more than we wanted. And they'll go ahead and do what we call a reactive band-aid, and they'll purchase like a really large one-time reserved instance purchase. But those savings are often short-lived because none of the other controls are in place. So what does an ideal spend pattern look like? Well, you want to get to more of a steady state. And how do you get there? So this is actually the same customer, and they've engaged with us to drive programmatic cost optimization, as I mentioned before, in a continuous fashion. So you can see the outcome here. It's that steady state, monthly recurring spend that you would want. So in mature environments that are still growing, albeit gradually, you want to see a steady monthly recurring cost, including amortization of any one-time purchases each month. And to get to this point, we've applied a whole series of optimization techniques, right? To provide cost containment, leveraging continuous monitoring and actions to keep those costs in check. And that includes using a cloud-native monitoring tool to increase visibility, taking advantage of cost-cutting techniques like lifecycle policies, instance right-sizing, purchasing options, and a lot more. And so one such technique, which you can see here, is to constantly be reviewing opportunities to right-size and make smaller, more strategic RI purchases that can be much more impactful. And in order to really understand what that all looks like in practice, let's talk about our cost optimization design principles and philosophy. So you can see here, go ahead, Jason.
No, you go right ahead.
Okay.
This is
I
what I
heard
was going
you.
to jump right into this, but you got it.
Awesome. So as we walk through some of the best practices, let's keep these principles in mind. So first, we talked about the consumption model, right? It's a thing that can definitely bite you, but you can also embrace it and use it to your advantage. So you can spin up instances on demand resources, but you and only pay for what you use. But at the same time, rather than leaving things, running idle 24 hours a day, it's an important principle to adopt, embracing that consumption model and maybe turn things off, right, when you're
That's
not
my
using them.
that's my dad policy. I walk into the room, turn the lights off, like anybody in this room?
That's exactly right. The dad policy. Um, and then you need to measure, right? You need to get visibility into what's going on. And so these next two really come together. You have to measure overall efficiency and tag your resources. Get a handle on what's going on in your environment. Otherwise, you get this kind of spaghetti soup of what the heck's going on in my environment. But if you can tag all of your resources and understand, okay, these are for this type of workload, these are for that workload, maybe even tag to cost centers, teams, projects. And the thing to understand is that visibility plays a huge role in creating effective practice around cost management. So governance is also critical. Guardrails, right? On-demand self-service nature of the cloud is wonderful, but it can lead to sprawl, cloud sprawl, and governance policies help you gain control. And finally, there are lots of opportunities in this right-hand column around cost savings that arise when you invest in actually evolving the workloads, right? There are opportunities above and beyond pure cost-saving measures that involve getting deep into your workload, re-architecting to do things like leveraging microservices, which enables you to scale your workloads kind of independently in parts and not have to scale up a monolith, right? And you can also take advantage of AWS managed services, reducing license burden, and optimize over time. So let's look at what this life cycle looks like. So this might be a little intimidating, right? But let's discuss how these all come together as
It
part
is
of that.
not as scary as it looks.
It isn't as scary as it looks, but it is designed to make sure you understand that there's a lot of activities here. What you see is 28 distinct activities around 4 general phases of the life cycle: analysis, cost optimization, cloud governance, and usage and cost monitoring, right? So these 4 phases are kind of part of a complete cost optimization practice. You need to do all of these things to be fully effective. And some of those activities include tracking usage and costs, right sizing, private pricing agreements, which actually allow you to leverage the volume at which you use AWS to negotiate a discount with Amazon, and lights out policies, which is Jason's good old dad policy, right? And look, every customer environment is different, and wherever you are in your journey is different. But don't treat cost optimization as a one-time project, right? It's a regular process of refinement and improvement. So for
It's funny.
example,
I was gonna say that's the biggest thing I think customers, any new customer that comes on board with us, that they present us to like, oh, we already optimized. Well, no, you
right.
need to continue to optimize. This is not like a one-time thing.
Yeah, for sure. And absolutely. If there's one takeaway, one key takeaway you have here is it's a journey, not a destination, right? You need to be continuously doing this to really stay on top of your cost. And so again, if you're thinking, wow, this is a little overwhelming, I can hear you, but the good news is there are so many tools, services, and systems that can help you get there more quickly and help you get to a good place where everything feels much more comfortable for you. You don't have to do it all on your own, and you don't have to do it all in one shot. So let's talk about how Mission operationalizes cost optimization, and this is how you can do it as well. So a continuous cost optimization practice requires a few things, right? And what we have talked about, Ron introduced this at the beginning of our conversation, is we are a strategic partner of Cloud Health by VMware, and it is the leading cost management platform in the market. It is extremely powerful. Jason, what do you call it again? You make a comparison.
I like to say it's Cost Explorer on performance enhancing drugs.
Yes, there you go, right? So if you're familiar with the AWS tools, they give you some decent tools, right? But they pale in comparison to what Cloud Health provides. And we're going to do a little demo in a moment, Jason is. So essentially what it does is it connects to your AWS accounts and it, in a read-only fashion, pulls in all sorts of data and information. And then it can give you recommendation, optimization capabilities, in-depth reporting, customizable alerting, and it provides you that visibility we talked about, right? That gives you a handle on your costs. We use Cloud Health and experts like Jason to drive our continuous optimization practice. And our customers really love it. We really love it. And I'm going to hand it over to Jason at this point because he can really dive deep now.
Awesome. Thanks, Jonathan. All right, so we're going to talk about a couple of case studies that we've done with our customers and kind of the work that we've put forward and help them save some money. So this customer, their name has been scrubbed from this, so bear with me on this as I go through it and hope not to slip. This customer that we're going to first talk about works with large entertainment venues, right? So they work and they do a lot of advertising in those types of venues. And when this pandemic started last year, they ran into a big problem because all of their customers were closed. Couldn't work, couldn't sell anything. They had to keep the lights on in their environment, but how do we reduce our costs along the way, and how do we keep things going? So they were spending in certain areas. This graph right here is showing you RDS spending. It's showing you your compute costs, your storage costs, showing you provision IOPS costs as well. And what we need to do with them is try to help find ways to keep the lights on while things are in a state of flux. So in this case, we found a whole bunch of storage. This is all using Cloud Health. So these graphs you'll see are all from Cloud Health. We found a whole bunch of storage costs in here and database costs that could be reduced. If things aren't being used to full capacity, why pay for them at full capacity? Why not scale them down, bring them down to something that's a little bit more realistic to work within? In this case, we brought down about $3,000 a month in storage costs by changing up RDS instances to use a standard storage as opposed to provisioned IOPS storage. Performance was clearly not an issue at that point in time when nothing's hitting their application. And again, with compute costs, we were able to downsize quite a bit. We were able to remove some multi-AZ instances and just bring them over to single availability zones for the short term as well. So we saw about $7,000 a month in reductions on that alone. On our next slide, this is also showing them, once we got things sized appropriately, we started to take a look at how can we go about making them not pay for everything at full price, right? You don't want to buy reserved instances for resources, especially for RDS, because once you commit to them, you can't sell them. So we wanted to make sure things were sized appropriately. In this case, you can kind of see it right in here. Midway through August, we ended up making a significant RI purchase with them, reserved instances for those of you who aren't in the know. That brought their costs down about $80 a day, which worked out to about almost $2,500 a month in savings alone just from the RI purchase there as well. Additionally, for their EC2 workloads, we worked with them to not only bring their overall spending down. So you can kind of see there where they started. They started at the beginning of that pandemic spending around $13,500 a month on their EC2 workloads. There was a lot of right sizing activity that had to happen first. We brought that we brought the workload consumption down. Once the consumption was brought down and sized appropriately, we were able to go and make some compute savings plan purchases to really reduce that spend a little bit further. So we ultimately saw about $3,000 a month worth of savings. So you can see it's probably more than that actually. So when the right sizing activity alone was around $1,500 a month in savings. Bringing in that savings plan on top of it, we significantly enhanced that. We looked at, all right, well, let's see how far can we get that down. There's some really great strategies for buying those savings plans as well. We can look at combinations of 3-year savings plans, 1-year savings plans, or rotating them on a quarterly basis. Buying certain amounts. Don't buy it all up at once. That's the one thing I'll tell you. And as what Jonathan was saying before, cost optimization is a life cycle and it's a journey, right? You don't want to just do it once and not have to think about it till next year. Do a little bit at a time. Capture incremental cost savings. It'll add up. It'll take a little bit of while to get you to your full to your destination and where you want to be, but you'll have a little bit more flexibility with that as well. So all said and done, we saw about $3,000 a month in savings plan purchases, savings plan savings alone, never mind the right sizing that we had accomplished for this customer as well. So what does that look like in their total spending? Total spending here came down about $16,000 a month, almost $17,000 a month here. So we saved them about $192,000 a year. It took us about 4 months to get us to that point. Customer had to do quite a bit of work to make some changes to things. Some of those changes were really simple changes. They didn't require a whole lot of lifting and effort. But some of them did require a little bit more work. But 4 months, and we got them down about 15, 16 grand in savings. Our next customer that we want to talk about is a company called MH Next. They run an online dating service. Similar scenario. COVID came around last year. They were looking for ways to lower their costs, increase elasticity in their application. They were seeing, as opposed to most businesses, they were seeing actually the exact opposite effect. An online dating service, as soon as the pandemic came around, that online dating service took off. Their usage and consumption went through the roof. Their goal was simply allow us to scale and allow us to keep our costs in check. So we'll do you one better. We took a peek at all of this stuff. Here's a couple of interesting things. So their costs actually started up here, around $14,000 a month. We did quite a bit of right sizing with them. We did quite a bit of work to convert over to spot instances whenever we were able to do that. They converted most of their auto scaling groups for their application to use, a couple of on-demand nodes, and the rest of it was all spot. They were actually able to increase their workload and decrease their costs all at the same time, and that's actually what you're seeing here. This is not a partial month for August. That was their legitimate workload cost. So overall, with those spot instances in place, we saw about $8,000 a month in savings. Next slide. I just closed off of that. Give me 1 second here. All right, hang on 1 second. I'm sorry.
No worries, Jason. And while you're doing that, I'll just interject really quickly because I know we're running a little short on time, Jason. So maybe we should bring up kind of some of our kind of capabilities here, and we can jump back into the case study because I want to make sure we respect the timeline.
Hey, Jonathan and Jason.
Yeah.
When you talk about your capabilities, can you also talk about two things? How you provide cost management for organizations that might have multi-cloud environments, namely using AWS and other providers, and also some expertise you might have between running Outpost on-prem with some cloud-based pure solutions. Those two issues came up.
Absolutely. And Jason, you're showing us your presenter view. So while you're swapping that out, what I'm going to do is talk about two programs, and I'll answer that question as well, Ron. So to answer the first question, Mission is 100% focused on AWS, right? And so we do have customers who have kind of on-prem resources or resources in other clouds. Many and most of the design principles line up very well, and Cloud Health does support multi-cloud, and we can help you get it set up in that way. But our expertise is really around kind of negotiating with AWS and being a really good dedicated AWS partner. The other thing I'll mention is you do need Cloud Health to really make this work in a really deep way. And one of the things that we do is, as part of our cost optimization programs, we give you that for free, right? It's just included in kind of the service. And effectively, the mechanism for that is we're your reseller. You buy your AWS Spend through us, and we pass on that value to you, and you get access to fantastic experts like Jason. And so, Jason, I'll let you kind of run through this real quick, and then we'll talk about, I think, the one last thing that I think is really critical, which is our IDP program.
Sure. I can bang through this stuff pretty easily. So what I wanted to highlight here, this is customers' CloudFront spending and usage. So on the left-hand side here in this graph, you're going to see, consumption and usage came down a little bit here, but it leveled off and plateaued, hanging out in this general vicinity. Whereas with their CloudFront costs, MH Next was able to leverage a private pricing agreement through us and negotiate that with AWS. We were able to help them with that. Their costs continued to come way down. So while their usage stayed the same, their costs started to tail off, which was awesome to see. That came down from 8,600 to about 3,300. So they saved a little over $5,000 a month in that alone. Other ways to work on stuff, that CloudFront PPA, when we put it in, PPA stands for Private Pricing Agreement, sorry for the acronyms and AWS acronym alphabet soup, ended up resulting in about $168,000 a year in savings. So long and short of it, we saw increased elasticity of their application. We meet with the customer on a weekly basis, talk about what challenges they're seeing. We've helped them introduce spot instances into their workloads, reduce their spending there by about $8,000 a month, another $5,000 a month found from CloudFront usage and consumption in a private pricing agreement. And that was the end of the case study.
All right,
Jonathan, you are up.
All right, let's skip to the next one and talk really quickly. That program I talked about is called Cloud Foundation. And effectively, like I said, you join into that program with us. It costs you nothing, $0, right? And in fact, it will immediately start producing savings for you. So it's kind of a no-brainer. You get a whole bunch of things. So you get access to Cloud Health, but you get really the whole combination of people, process, and tools that we talked about before, and that kind of continuous cost optimization process. You get regular consultants, regular meetings with our consultants like Jason, who will talk to you about optimizations and recommendations. We will help you purchase savings plans. We will help you negotiate private pricing agreements, and we'll help you strategically reduce that spend, right? You also get a much simpler invoice than what AWS provides you. We can break it down and help you tag every single thing and look at kind of spend by project or cost center. And the last thing I want to mention is our IDP program. So Jason, let's skip to that slide. And this is kind of a really great place to start. Again, a no-brainer. This is a program we launched kind of at the beginning of the pandemic, and everyone's under pressure to save right away. And so what this is designed to do is let you save instantly 5% off your AWS bill the moment you join, immediately, right? With no obligations for 12 months, so as long as you stick with the program. For most customers, significant savings are available above and beyond that, but IDP gives you those guaranteed savings right away with opportunities for us to work together to drive more savings over time. Last week, we actually onboarded a customer to this program, and we were able to recognize about a 15% reduction within about weeks, really, within about 3 weeks. So you get all the benefits of Cloud Foundation as part of this. And if you go to the last slide here, Jason, there is a survey you can click through to see if you're eligible for this program at missioncloud.com/IDP.